do so. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Alonzo. Recently, I was scrolling through the various social media apps that occupy my phone space, and I kept coming across this same video topic over and over again. So I thought maybe it's me and the algorithm is trying to tell me what I need to know. But I soon came to realize that I don't search this topic a lot, so why is it being force fed to me? So today's topic is why aren't free resources given to those who need them? We are the land of the free after all, correct? Well, I'll answer that question. But first, we must take a history lesson. So stay tuned. First things first, what is free? What does it mean to be free? Well, the definition of free is being under the control of no person or thing. An example could be oxygen. No one controls how much oxygen you take in on a day to day basis. More often than not, I see a lot of people saying that things in America should be free because you shouldn't have to pay to live. Although that sounds good in theory, but someone had to build the infrastructure, someone had to build a house. So, how would you expect someone to build a free resource, but they're not paid for their time, their labor, or their skills? Is that free? I'll tell you what it is. In short, it's slavery. You can't expect someone who's spent years and years perfecting a skill or a craft to willingly want to give it away for free. Now, granted, they may have done what they do for a passion in order to gain resources for themselves. So you can't expect someone to want to give that away for free. It kind of defeats the purpose. Now, life is all about trade offs. As much as we like to deny the fact, you can't get something for nothing. Even freedom isn't free for the most part. Think about the history of this country. We had to take and go out and explore different regions in order to become the superpower that we are today. Now, in the recent surge of social media, there are always people that talk down on the country that they live in. Now, I guarantee you, these same people, they won't go out and move away and see for themselves how good they actually have it. Because sometimes we have it so good that we don't realize it until it's actually gone. So, why isn't college or healthcare or housing, why aren't all these things free to the public? Well, the thing is, more times than not, we have resources put in place. People say America is a free enterprise, but we're not all the way free because there are government regulations. And what's so great about this free enterprise is we, the consumers, determine the price. Now, more times than not, the price is considered by the upper echelon of people who can afford the maximum price. And then we get into the social classes. You have your low, your middle, and your highs. The beautiful thing about this system is you determine where you spend your money. You have the option to not exchange money for goods. And with more companies than you can even imagine, we have an almost unlimited amount to shop around and see which ones offer the best value. But when the main companies dominate the playing field with their marketing, you may feel like you're limited to a certain product. An example could be some major hitters like Apple, Samsung, some of the two major phone companies, but some people feel like they have to get the latest. And so when these scarce resources are used to make these phones, the price can be jacked up to $1,200, and you have people that buy used phones on a year-to-year basis. You also have the same people who complain about the prices being too high for the same product. Could you imagine complaining about the price of the newest iPhone while having the newest iPhone and posting it to the major websites to market the same product? You do it inadvertently, but it's still hypocritical if you ask me. Now, what does all this have to do with free resources? Well, earlier I brushed over the low class, middle class, and high class. For the most part, you're limited to certain resources based off the class that you're born into. It's unfair, but socioeconomic classes do exist in this country. Now, what better example than yours truly? Technically speaking, according to the numbers, I was born in the low class. So all the odds were stacked against me from birth. But I don't like to look at it that way. I like to look at it as I just started behind and I get to pace myself to get to the front of the finish line. Now, according to some reports, and I'll be sure to leave a link to all of the references that I'm using to make this video. Socioeconomic classes have an impact on your psychology and the way that you're brought up. I have always had a different perspective of the world, so being born in the low class just gave me an opportunity to scout the playing field, and I could look up at the middle and the high class to know what I need to do in order to get on their level. Now, does that make me an exception to the rule of how classes work? Well, no, because it's not meant to be taken literal. It's more of, in my opinion, theory than anything. People don't like to acknowledge it because they don't like to accept facts. Let's just be honest. More times than not, the truth hurts. And when we learn the truth about certain things, we try and deny it, even though the facts are laid out in front of you. And that's a major problem, especially in my community. And that's why we're sometimes labeled as playing the victim card for the most part, because majority of our race is born into the low class. So we don't have the proper resources when it comes to education, healthcare, and so on and so forth. But this isn't the video about that. In my opinion, which is valid because I live in the greatest country in the world, uh, social classes are more of they help to I guess separate everything. If you pack your lunch, you don't just throw everything in one bowl. You separate the beans, the rice, the chicken, the bread, and even the dessert goes in a separate container. I view classes as looking down at a slate to, I guess, measure the performance. That's why classes are separated. And you could, I hate to say it, but you can point out a low class individual in public compared to a high class individual in public because they don't intermingle, they tend to congregate in the same areas. Now, prior to the Karl Marx definition of social class, it was non-political, and it actually meant the economic system and the family determine how a society worked, which is the main difference when it comes to high class and low class. Most low class individuals are born out of wedlock and they come from a single parent household versus a high class family where two parents are in the home, they're married, and they're educated for the most part. But more times than not, people they say, well, they're educated because they can afford college. So why isn't college free? Because wouldn't free college then lead to people becoming educated? And if people are educated, they know more. And if you know better, you will in turn do better. Wouldn't that then close the gap between the high class and the low class? Drop a comment down below and let me know what you think. But before I get into that, you may be wondering why I haven't said anything about middle class. Well, I saved the best for last, obviously. Imagine in statistics you have your two outliers on the box and whisker plot. Your low end being low class, your high end being high class, obviously. And in the middle you have this box. This box is what makes America great. These people, they represent stability, they're educated, and they also have a nuclear family. They act as a buffer zone between the low and the high. It's the glue of the country for the most part. Not to forget financial freedom, which is the ultimate goal for each class. Whether you're low, middle, or high, we all need money in order to obtain resources. So the ultimate goal is to get enough resources where you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. You don't have to worry about if your water is going to be cut off, or are you going to wake up to no lights or no food in the fridge. Now back to the script. Should college be free? Well, in my own personal opinion, I wouldn't say free, but it could use some revamping in terms of your degree should earn you enough to be able to pay off any outstanding student debt that you may have acquired. The reason I say this is because I am currently enrolled in college. I have no student loans, but each semester they offer you the option to accept a student loan. And I knew something was weird because my first, no, my second year, when I was going through the whole enrollment process, you go on a website, you click yes or no when it comes to accepting a loan. And they would have, I was pre approved for up to $24,000 in student loans. All I had to do was click yes. Now, imagine just waving $24,000 in front of the face of a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. More times than not, they're going to accept it. And as I said earlier, me coming from low class, I wasn't the most financially literate, but I understood that not having this money now and just taking someone else's money, I'm gonna have to pay it back, and with interest, of course. Now, to play devil's advocate for a while, I understand why colleges are so expensive because one, it is specialized training and you are in a structured environment. So most of the money, from my understanding, goes towards research and you're paying someone for a skill set that they have honed and perfected for over 20 plus years. And that's something that you really can't put a price on, if you ask me. Now, if you're feeling dangerous, you could always say that college is expensive to continue separating classes. And you would have every right to think that because you do live in the greatest country of America where you can have your own opinion about certain things. Now, let's just be honest for a minute. Do you really think that by lowering the tuition rates that the enrollment rates will go up? I want to hear your answer, but my short answer is